Eddie Chavez, Ruben Nava, and Jesse Romero. Jesus 911.
Jesus 911, Virgin Most Powerful Radio, a two-man card, two retired LA County deputy sheriffs joining together to lift you up in with some Catholic briefing, some intel. We're a two-man card today. My partner Jesse Romero is streaming from Arizona. Good morning, Jess.
Reporting for duty, sir.
Right.
Hey, Ruben, we're going to tackle a tough topic today. Remember in police work, there was a term that policemen use, officers use. It's called wobbler. They'll say, "Hey, is this a crime? What do you think?" I don't know. Does it have the elements of a crime? Well, let me impress a little bit further. I don't know, dude. This is like a wobbler.
Yeah, you're generally between a felony and a misdemeanor. You could file as a felony, but it's probably going to get kicked down to a misdemeanor.
So that's what we're talking about today, Ruben. We're going to talk about, and I'm very opinionated on this topic. It's the topic on CBD. And I'm going to mount my arguments. I think Ruben knows them. But to be honest with you, when you try to look at anything negative on the internet on CBD, the internet is saturated with nothing but pro-pot articles and pro-CBD articles. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing, in my opinion, and I'll get to my opinions as soon as I show the other side. I want to be fair. I want to quote some of these pro-pot doctors. I just believe that all of this is pure propaganda, and this is a placebo. We're going to find out somewhere down the line that there was no science behind it, much like global warming, much like other things like going to a psychic. That we'll see. We'll see in the future that there is no scientific basis for it. But right now, Eddie, Ruben, let's go to some of the pro-pot people and see what they say, or the pro-CBD people.
Yeah, there's a doctor who writes The Truth About CBD. I thought it was interesting that he comes right out and says that the truth about, his name Dr. Roman.
Matthew Roman.
Yeah.
Matthew Roman.
The truth about CBD is that it's fake. He says there, he said it's a placebo. The entire cannabis industry wants you to believe that it's real. More than that, it's claimed to be even better than medical marijuana because it has beneficial properties without the high. Countless of dollars are spent on this cannabis extract. He says studies have revealed benefits using Cannabidol, aka CBD, to treat seizures. Proponents and sellers, they claim that it has anti-cancer effects and treats pain. That's a big leap. And after treating thousands of patients with a medical marijuana product since 2015, he says he's witnessed many chronic pain patients choose high CBD strains, which has caused me to believe that CBD no longer than I should have. Not anymore. Which caused him to believe in CBD, but he doesn't believe in them anymore. And
so here's that. Yeah, so that's one guy he's pretty. He just came right out and said it, Ruben. That it's. The first sentence that you read from his article, that was he just basically dropped the microphone there, where he says the truth about CBD is that it's fake. He goes, it's the placebo. When you go to the end of the article, towards the end, he also says something pretty compelling. He says it's called the global CBD placebo effect. He says, I'm saying this and sticking my neck out as one individual opposing a billion-dollar industry. In other words, Ruben, it took a lot of courage for him to even write some of the although he's pro-pot and all that stuff, but just to say that that CBD is the placebo, this doctor stuck his neck out because he's going against the entire billion-dollar machine that was started by George Soros.
Right. He started producing his own CBD oil because he wanted the best for his patients. He kind of left like the mainstream, the medical, pharmaceuticals to work on this, and now he was kind of blindsided. He takes a different stance. He says that his experience treating epilepsy patients with cannabis products, he knew that it was the THC, that's that delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the stuff that gives you the euphoric effect. that had anti-seizure properties. So to confound this further, a skeptical Chinese correspondence letter about the previously linked Dravet syndrome kind of gets into this technical stuff. But he says he's saying that it's true that epileptic children respond to CBD are likely on this drug or other medications affected metabolically by concomitant. That's like an associate administration of CBD. So it affects the medications they're already on, is what was he saying. The CBD is interacting with these other medications, since 65% of these patients, these seizure epilepsy patients who are already on this drug called clobazam. So he's saying more than the CBD or even the THC that they're administering, it's having a reaction to the drugs they're already on. So that's what his take was on it.
Here's the last two paragraphs. I think as again, it's telling from Dr. Matthew Roman. He says, mass placebo effect brainwashing isn't as uncommon as you think. Actually, it's everywhere. Acupuncture, chiropractic, cancer trials, dieting, even some Western medicine. We are led to believe that all of these healthcare modalities are helpful for us, when in actuality, when all the evidence is examined, the truth is that we are conned. I mean, this is a doctor writing this. I didn't used to believe that this was true of allopathic medicine, but in time I came to the realization that even that was a farce. We were providing the best healthcare at the moment to bankrupt patients and ruin their long-term quality of life, which eventually destroys their health anyway. He says, don't let the CBD industry fool you into buying an inactive product. This could be the start of a never-ending global placebo effect driven by corporate profits. And just remember this. It doesn't get you high because it doesn't do anything at all. Save your money for therapeutically active THC. See, he's a medical wanted THC promoter. He says, why am I telling you this? So that you save your money by having more realistic expectations of CBD. When someone claims it can cure your cancer, they won't distract you from their fruitful options. When the dispensary tells you that you're out of THC capsules, but CBD ones are available, you'll save your cash for the movie tickets for your family. So that's one doctor just rails against it. There's another article, and I'll filch from this other article. It's called CBD Oil Side Effects.
Hey, well, I'm going to throw one little thing out there.
Okay, go ahead.
My chiropractor's listening. I went to him yesterday. I believe in chiropractic, so he calls it. He throws it in there with all that other stuff. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think there's some science
chiropractic,
behind chiropractic. Yeah, I don't agree with that statement.
Yeah,
you're right.
Sorry, Dr. Bud.
Yeah. So CBD oil side effects and possible adverse reactions. And don't worry, Ruben and me are talking about CBD. I'm going to come out with it biblically, but first of all, I'm kind of mounting the medical. But don't worry, I've got a lot to say on CBD from a common sense, from a theological, and from a biblical point of view. But let's hear the positive side.
Yeah, hey, Jesse, what prompted this? Is there
email
Catholic,
questions? Ruben, these are recurring email questions we're getting here at Jesus 911.
That's right. So that's why
I said, you know what? Let's just tackle it. I've got something to say about it, and you'll. So, CBD oil side effects. The first paragraph is pretty good here. It says, does the use of CBD oil have side effects? CBD is a natural substance, a cannabinoid from the cannabis hemp plant, whose positive properties on the human organism are not only attributed by scientists and physicians, but by people all over the world who have experienced its healing and therapeutic abilities. Even though it is a natural substance, and because of the fact that we have our own cannabinoid system, it looks as if it's been created for us. Nevertheless, the question arises whether CBD has side effects. And if so, which one? Under which circumstances and at what dosage? He says, over the years of study, though, there are still too few of them. So he admits that there's few studies. He says a few side effects have been identified. Let's look at the toxicity of CBD, the possible side effects, and the safety of CBD. And here's two that he throws out there about warning and caution. He says, during pregnancy and breastfeeding, we like to point out that there's no clear information as to whether it is safe to use CBD oil during pregnancy and breastfeeding. Although the use of CBD seems to be very safe, there are simply no studies that confirm this for use in pregnancy and breastfeeding. Therefore, if in doubt, you should not use CBD at this time. Second thing, Parkinson's disease. He says one study found that a high CBD dose in Parkinson's patients worsens symptoms such as the tremor. Then he goes down the article. What are some of the CBD oil side effects? He says dry mouth. Some studies show that CBD oil can cause the so-called cotton mouth sensation or dry mouth, as it was discovered that cannabinoid receptors can also be found in the submandibular glands, which have the job of producing saliva. Thus, when CBD oil affects these receptors, then the production of saliva is affected, leaving your mouth dry. But apart from that fact, this side effect will make you feel thirsty. There are no dangers to your health. And the second one, again, the Parkinson's, he says, as he's mentioned, the use of CBD oil can make patients that suffer from tremors and uncontrollable muscle movements to experience a worsening of their symptoms at higher CBD doses. Ruben?
All right. Hey, that's a good first segment, Jess. We're going to hold that one. We're going to come back and talk about some other articles, and let's hear some of your takes on from the spiritual aspect. So don't change that dial. If you have any comments or questions, 888-526-2151. If you use CBD oil, that we'd like to hear from you.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
We are back, Jesus 911, Virgin Most Powerful Radio. A two-man car. Our call signs are John 3:16, and we are available for calls, 10-8. So just what article were we just talking about?
The second one here, the second article, Ruben, it has,
what's
here's
the
where
title
it
of
gets
it?
into some negative stuff.
What's the title?
the second article that we're doing that I just did right now, it is what's it called?
The hype about CBD?
No, possible adverse reactions of. He still has some stuff to say that's pretty interesting towards the bottom.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, he says again. So what are the side effects on that? He says dry mouth and Parkinson's patients are affected. He also says, he has CBD oil side effects, pharmaceuticals. He says it was discovered that a high dose of CBD can stop the activity of some enzymes found in the liver, the P450 enzymes, which are responsible for metabolizing most of the drugs used by people. So he says, yes, CBD can interact with some drugs by affecting the way our organisms process these drugs. So towards the end of the bottom of the article, he repeats what he says. Some of the CBD oil effects are lightheadedness. This is a side effect that may be experienced due to the fact that blood pressure levels are dropping as a result of taking a higher dose of CBD. He also says CBD oil, low blood pressure, he says, as he mentioned, if you take a dose of CBD that is slightly higher, your blood pressure may decrease. This happens after minutes after taking CBD and will, in most cases, produce a feeling of lightheadedness. And finally, he says drowsiness towards the end of the article. There are cases in which CBD can cause drowsiness, more precisely in the cases where the dosage was high. If you do find yourself in such a state, you should avoid using any kind of machinery or driving. And more CBD side effects, he says, CBD can affect your heart rate, body temperature, pH levels, glucose levels, red cell volume in the blood, as well as potassium and sodium levels. Again, these are temporary effects that will disappear once you adjust your dosage to a lower level. And then finally, the last thing he says that's worthy is, in general, CBD is very well tolerated and is considered safe even in high doses. Again, these are all pro-pot doctors, okay? So he says, however, some people may experience these adverse reactions. 1, anxiety and depression. 2, psychosis. 3, nausea. 4, vomiting. 5, sleepiness. 6, changes in appetite. Ruben, let's run to the third article.
Okay, what's the hype about, right?
Yeah, the hype.
Okay, the hype. This is, hold on, let me bring it up. There's a lot of, in law enforcement justice, before I get into that, we don't, this is not something that we are really, we get schooled in, because we're not going after these users that are trying to do it for medicinal purpose. Obviously, we're going after the people that are producing it and selling it, and so it's not like the policeman's going to be waiting at your back door to try to bust you for using this oil, man.
Right.
Okay, so this article was Health and Science Perspective is by an article by Stephen Petro, and he says, not long ago, I have not been able to tell you what the acronym CBD stood for, let alone what it was used for. CBD, or Cannabidol, is most commonly extracted from hemp, but it also can come from the marijuana plants, which is why it is sometimes confused with its trippy chemical cousin THC. Unlike CBD, THC produces a high when smoked or eaten. He goes on to say that in his small part of the town, North Carolina town, there's a flyer at the local convenience store, exhorts him to experience the phenomenon of CBD products, promising it can provide relief from diabetes, alcoholism, schizophrenia, back and knee pain, and other conditions. He says everybody who buys the product, comes back and raves about it, including his mother. The enthusiastic checkout clerk says. He says, I'm now taking CBD tincture daily. After all the hype, I wanted to see whether it might have a positive impact on my life. Long struggle against depression. To be clear, tincture I use is based on hemp-derived CBD, which contains less than that 0.3% THC, which is short for, we already talked about that, tetrahydrocannabinol. That's not enough.
The next paragraph is the meat of it right there. The next paragraph.
Despite the growing popularity of CBD, the science supporting the claims remains pretty slim at this point.
That's my position there.
Yeah. So why so much interest in a substance researchers still know so little about? I'd say hype, hope, and big bucks.
That's what it is. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Go ahead.
He says, to date, the Food and Drug Administration has approved only one drug containing CBD, Diabolics, for previously uncontrollable pediatric seizures. To get the FDA's okay, a new drug must be rigorously studied in clinical trials. And, Jess, I did looked at what the DEA had to say about that drug. And it was interesting because a lot of people think, oh, well, because we know that marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug. And just so for our listeners,
that gets you high.
Schedule 1, yeah.
The science has been in for a long time.
There's no medical benefits to a Schedule 1. The higher the schedule, or the lower the schedule, like a 1, 2, 3, there's no especially 1. There's no medical value, and there's a high risk of getting addicted to it. And so that all the DEA did, the government, is that they announced that after the FDA approved Epidiolex, an epilepsy drug containing a purified form of CBD oil derived from marijuana, because marijuana is a Schedule 1 controlled substance. The drug approval gave the DEA a 90-day deadline to tweak its policy. So the FDA had the DEA tweak their policy. Some experts predicted the DEA would completely reschedule CBD, but they were wrong. And Special Agent Melvin Patterson of the DEA says they were never considering it, removing marijuana from the Schedule 1.
Wow. See, Ruben, here's what I believe, okay? And you just said it right now. I believe that the medical marijuana, the recreational marijuana people, they're trying to use CBD. If they can it's like sticking, the camel sticking his nose on the tent. If they can get that in and mainstream it and have the FDA approve it and regulate it, then little by little, they're just going to buy into everything else. Yeah. And that's just the beginning of the legalization of all kinds of other Schedule 1 drugs to turn our society into a dystopian society, a society where it's just lawlessness.
Yeah.
And again, I just believe this is the beginning of these liberals trying to, again, refashion society in their own image and likeness, which I'll get into in the third and fourth segment. Go ahead.
So just to reiterate, the DEA did not reschedule CBD. The agency only rescheduled CBD drugs that have been approved by the FDA and that contain no more than 0.1% THC. And for now, that's just Epidiolex. The DEA moved it to the least restrictive category of the Controlled Substances Act, and they made it a Schedule 5 drug. So
here's to me the meat of this article here that you're sharing, Ruben. Look at this sentence. He says, the Hemp Business Journal estimates that the hemp CBD market totaled $190 million last year in a category that didn't exist 5 years ago. You think this has something to do with all the hype? Then he writes, by 2022, the Brightfield Group, a cannabis and CBD market research firm, says sales are expected to reach $22 billion. Ruben, that's the answer right there. Why there's so much commercials and so much positive advertising on the internet, billboards, because there's a lot of money behind this and a lot of money to be made. Here's some of the other things that the article says that I thought were telling. What's the harm? Now, this doctor called Daniel Abrams, an oncologist and professor of clinical medicine at the University of California at San Francisco, he says, quote, we really don't know anything about CBDs. He's honest. The article says several studies have found CBD to be harmless, which is to say safe, but that's very different from proving its effectiveness. Dr. Abrams told me there have been only 5 randomized clinical trials that have looked at CBD until the Epidiolex studies. And the largest of these studies was a 24-person trial.
Wow.
Yep, that's a small sampling.
24.
Yeah, that's it. Most of this has been tested on animals.
Yeah.
And it says even if there were more evidence that CBD works wonders, we would still have the question of what CBD-based products actually contain. And then finally, another study 2017, Marcel Bonn-Miller, an assistant professor in the psychiatry department at the University of Pennsylvania's School of Medicine, said his team found that nearly 70% of CBD products they analyzed were mislabeled. He says about 40% of the 84 items were underlabeled, meaning they had significantly more CBD than indicated. In addition, approximately a quarter were overlabeled, meaning consumers not only are paying good money for an ingredient that they're not getting, but also may not be getting a large enough dose to achieve any potential therapeutic benefit. And more concerning, Bon Miller says, is that some CBD products may contain THC in amounts that could make you intoxicated or impaired. And finally, it says users could inadvertently drive under the influence, test positive on a workplace drug screen, or experience what Bon Miller calls a number of negative consequences, ranging from addiction to cognitive impairment, anxiety, particularly at high doses, and risk of psychosis. So, speaking of doses, what's the right amount? The FDA won't allow CBD users to make any marketing claims,
Right.
which includes recommended doses. Other brands may recommend a greater or smaller daily dose because doses aren't standardized and because CBD products come in different strengths. So as Professor Abrams said, it's really the wild, wild west out there.
Yeah. I pulled up an article from the Department of Public Health, and they said a few years ago the National Academy of Medicine convened a panel of 16 leading medical experts to analyze the scientific literature on cannabis. And let's get to the meat of it. And it goes along the line of what you just said, Jesse, about the lack of studies that go into it. They said we need proper studies, the panel concluded, on the health effects of cannabis on children, on teenagers and pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers and older populations and heavy cannabis users. In other words, on everyone except the college student who smokes a joint once in a month. So it says that there's different modes, different strains of cannabis, the different modes of delivery, different concentrations in various populations, including dose-response relationships of cannabis and THC on other cannabinoids. Let me finish up this article and we get back.
Ruben, the studies aren't in. We don't know enough about this. Why are people putting this in their body? We don't know enough about it. Only 24 people have been studied. 24!
That's right, man. Better go back to the pet rock, Jess.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show, and they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Jesus 911, we're iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. We are a two-man car. We're giving you some Catholic briefing on CBD. It's one of the ingredients that were found in the cannabis plant. And I was just finishing up an article from the Public Health, and it says that, and what we've been talking about is that people want to use this CBD oil, claiming all these amazing properties, but what's happening is it has been tested properly, and it says in this article, figuring out the dose-response relationship of a new compound is something a pharmaceutical company does from the start of trials in human subjects as it prepares a new drug application for the FDA. Too little of a powerful drug means that it won't work. Too much means that it might do more harm than good. And the amount of active ingredient in a pill and the metabolic path that the ingredient takes after it enters the body. These are things that drug makers will have painstakingly mapped out before the product comes on the market, with a tractor trailer full of supporting documentation. And the last part, it says, with marijuana, apparently we're still waiting for this information. It's hard to study a substance that, until very recently, has been almost universally illegal. And the few studies we do have were done mostly in the 1980s and 90s, when cannabis was not nearly as potent as it is now because of the recent developments in plant breeding and growing techniques. The typical concentration of THC and even CBD has gone from low single digits. The THC has gone from low single digits to 20%, from a swig of near beer to a tequila shot. And that they were talking about THC, but still, a lot of people are trying to get the benefits from the plant, and it's not proven. It's not scientific yet.
There you go. That's the point. That's the point that we're making. And that's why I agree, Ruben, with some of these other doctors that said, well, in fact, this last article here, it says, this one sentence, the placebo effect can be strong, especially for health symptoms modulated by the brain. He says, this doctor says, I hope that reputable makers would be honest about lab analysis of what's in their CBD products. But if not, how would we know? The answer is we wouldn't. So, Ruben, this is an area, this is the global warming phenomena once again. I believe global warming is a hoax, okay?
Me too.
So let me go now into the more spiritual. So we got into the medical, and we see that even some of these objective doctors that are pro-pot, they're saying, wait a minute, man, we don't know enough about the CBD yet. We don't know. There's not enough studies. The science isn't in. It's not settled. But let's go now to the more Catholic point of view on this whole CBD, because I get a lot of questions on this.
Bet you do.
And I get I give a pretty standard answer. Obviously, people know our position on marijuana. I wrote a book on it. Ruben forwarded it. So that's established, okay?
I'm
there
giving
it is.
Jesse the plug here.
What's wrong with marijuana?
That's right. I'm holding it up for you for you who are watching
that one's
the video.
Clear cut. There's not a wobbler there. That one's not like, there's nothing gray there. It's pretty clear cut. But on the issue of again, the whole medical marijuana and the whole CBD, here's the way this one priest answered it. Father Gerald Coleman, he's the vice president of corporate ethics for the Daughters of Charity at Santa Clara University. He says this: even though the federal government classifies marijuana as a Schedule I controlled substance, along with heroin, ecstasy, and LSD, implying that it has a high potential for abuse, about 20 states allow the use of medical marijuana. The drug itself is composed of at least 85 different chemical compounds, with THC being the primary psychoactive compound that stimulates the brain to release dopamine, creating euphoria while often inducing hallucinations and delusions. He writes, CBD is the major constituent primarily responsible for alleviating alleviating certain medical problems. In reality, however, marijuana dispensaries make their money on products that are high in psychoactive compound and low in the component that offers medical benefits. That's what that other doctor on the other article that we just read from Dr. Bon Miller said. From what university was that? He said the same thing as this priest. He says, in other words, the people that are selling all this stuff, we don't know what's in it. You don't know what you're buying. Now, a brain surgeon that I've talked to about this, Dr. Vince Fortunace, we've had him on the radio show several times.
He had him at
Here's
the conference.
what he says.
Yeah, he was at the
He's a
conference.
world-renowned brain surgeon. I asked him about CBD. He says he was very pithy. He says, Jess, people tout that the CBD has medicinal value. However, after you are no longer under the influence and you're sober, your sensitivity to pain increases. He says you can extract the CBD from the THC, but it's very expensive, and we have drugs much less expensive that helps decrease your pain already. So that was his answer. And what about the moral culpability of people who have marijuana medical cards or use CBD? Now, this is my take. This isn't anybody else. And Ruben,
I'll do that take for you.
Chime in.
Yeah, I'll do that take for you. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Jesse's article was "The Devil Has Sure Muddied the Waters." This is the way he can legalize intoxication, have doctors prescribe legal medical marijuana. Brilliant plan. Only Satan could have thought of this one. The Venerable Fulton Sheen, a CD from A Voice from Calvary, says the demon Bacchus is the demon of marijuana and was sent to us in the 70s from hell. The whole promotion of marijuana as medicine is diabolical. The Bible speaks about worldly wisdom in James 3:15. The apostle writes, "This wisdom is not such as comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and devilish." And it says, now to answer your question, the Catechism says that the medicine prescribed by a doctor is legal and permissible. However, and you point out, most of the people that have these medical marijuana cards are young people, faithless, secular, full of tattoos and facial body piercings that don't work, sit at home all day at their parents' house and watch the video games in their pajamas. Just watch the customers that walk into a medical marijuana shop for an hour and you'll see what I'm talking about, or what you're saying is true. The government is undecided on the issue. Point number two. The government is undecided on the issue of medical marijuana because the federal government says it's a Schedule I drug with no medicinal value. The states under liberal Democratic governors say marijuana is not a drug and has medicinal benefits. You go, and we just talked about that. 3. Go ahead, Jess. Go hit 3.
And here's my last point. As the Catholic, I ask the question whether it's medical marijuana or CBD. I have to ask the question, whatever happened to redemptive suffering? That means making atonement and penance for our sins. You know, Venerable Sheen said, without Good Friday, there's no Easter Sunday. The whole medical marijuana craze has been perpetrated by the atheist billionaire George Soros and the God-denying Democrats. And now that's a fact. There's articles on this about how much millions of dollars are putting into this. Now, here's my take. So, I believe this is a scheme of Satan. Remember what James 3:15 says, devilish wisdom? I believe this is a scheme of Satan so that people will not suffer. In other words, to create a false utopia here on earth, to make earth heaven. No suffering, no pain. But this was actually predicted by a book back in the 1930s. It was the author's name's Aldous Huxley, and the book is called A Brave New World. In this book, the synopsis of this book, back in the 30s, he says that man's going to build a futuristic society that has an alarming effect of dehumanization. And this is going to occur through the absence of spirituality. Guess what? Check that off the box. 4.5 French going to mass in the country of France. 4.5%. Check that one off. Okay. He also says there's going to be also an absence of family life. Well, you could check that off the box in many places.
The divorce rate, yeah. Yeah,
the divorce rate. He says in the future, mankind is going to be obsessed with physical pleasure. Check that one off.
You think?
And we've got to the point where we're obsessed with physical pleasure. We don't even want pain anymore. CBD, medical marijuana, I mean, just no pain, no pain. He says, and there's going to also be a misuse of technology. Everything that he says in this book, The Brave New World, is happening right now, Ruben, right under our noses. And he also says in this book, he says that modern man in the future will devise a drug. He calls the drug the soma. And Aldous Huxley says this soma is going to help you escape reality for a few hours a day.
Wow.
He calls it a wonder drug. He wrote this in the 1930s. Now, my take is this soma, is this wonder drug, could it be medical marijuana and CBD? I don't know, Ruben. It's a pretty close match as you read The Brave New World. I'm just wondering if this is the medical marijuana and CBD. And again, medical marijuana and CBD, this is Jesse Romero, is a diabolical distraction which seeks to bypass the Lord's plan that humans need to suffer. Guess what? Jesus Christ says we need to carry our cross.
That's right.
Especially as we get older. Why? Because this helps us unite more closely to God as we feel our mortality and our life ebbing away. And this also helps the soul detach itself from this world and unite more radically to God, who is perfect love and goodness and beauty and truth and life. Can you imagine dying under the influence of marijuana? It sends a soul to their particular judgment, inebriated and intoxicated. That's dangerous. You know what? Not me. No thanks. I have enough sins to account for. I don't want to go to my particular judgment in front of Jesus Christ intoxicated. Nope, no thank you. I'm going to go stone sober, just like the Bible tells me in 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Ruben, any comments?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're all called to pick up our cross and suffer with Jesus. Remember, if no Good Friday, there's no Easter. You know, we just celebrated Easter, but that 40 days of Lent, we were giving up things. We were doing mortification to our bodies, and that's what it's all about. That's what Catholicism is all about. We preach Christ crucified, and so if we don't suffer with him, we're not going to be able to reign with him. That's what you're
Bible
saying.
says. And that's, Ruben, and that's the devil doesn't want us to suffer. Remember, the devil try to convince Peter. Peter tells Jesus, Lord, no, I'm not going to let you die, and I'm not going to let you die. And what did Jesus say to Peter? Get behind me, Satan.
Yep. That's right.
The devil told Peter, tell him not to die for the sins of the world. Tell him not to suffer, not to make atonement for the sins of the world. And Jesus looked at Peter and says, what, not suffer me? Peter, get behind me, Satan.
Right.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Jesus 911, two-man car. We're giving you some Catholic intel, some briefing. Remember, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And we were talking about CBD and what is wrong with it. And
Ruben, you had mentioned an evil spirit, a demon called Bacchus. And we reject and renounce Bacchus in Jesus' name. Go to the foot of the cross that Jesus Christ may sentence you and do with you as he wills. Mother Mary, crush the head of this infernal spirit. Yes. Now, and hell has a military structure. Satan, he's the CEO of hell. He's the father of he's the general. But there are people under him. There are generals under him. And Bacchus is one of the generals under him. He's known as the demon of intoxication. He's known also as the demon of marijuana. And Venerable Fulton Sheen, in a lecture he gave back in the 1970s, a very famous lecture called A Voice from Calvary, he's the one that said that this demon, this general under Satan, was sent by Satan to this world in the 1970s, called Bacchus, and he's the demon of marijuana. So again, there are generals under Satan, and these generals have legions of demons at their disposal. Ruben, remember what I talked about? That famous book is called A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley.
Yes.
It was written back in the 1930s, and it talked about the way in the future that society would dehumanize each other, and in trying to build this utopian society, this perfect society, we're actually going to build a dystopian society. In other words, a society that's all screwed up. Pardon my French. And I'll tell you, this whole thing about this wonder drug in the future. I mean, in the 1930s, Aldous Huxley said that we would be looking for a wonder drug called Soma. You know what, Ruben? I'll tell you what the wonder drug is. Okay, and that's probably not a good description. The Soma that the whole world needs, it's called the Holy Eucharist, Jesus Christ's body, blood, soul, and divinity. This CBD, this medical marijuana, this is a fake Eucharist, Ruben. This is a fake Soma. This is a placebo. People think, oh, you're going to feel good. Oh, you're going to feel transcendent. You're going to feel like you're in heaven. This is going to send you to hell because you live a life of intoxication and you live a life of a person who refuses to pick up your cross. The real Soma is the Eucharist. Now, why don't I trust all medicine? Obviously, I trust medicine. I go to a doctor and a dentist. But there's a lot of medicine I'm very cautious of. Why? Because I've had this conversation with my wife for many years. The scientific and medical community, a large part of it has been hijacked and politicized by the left. You don't believe me? Number one, the whole climate change movement. That's unsettled science. And they speak about, like if it's a fact. AOC says, Ruben, that the world's going to end in 12 years.
Well, what that has in common with this, Jesse, is big dollars. You know,
there you go.
The government is pushing trillions of dollars towards
follow the money.
Yeah, exactly.
And St. Paul tells us in 1 Timothy 6:10, the love of money is the root of all evil. A lot of these scientists and doctors are paid by big money benefactors, and there's big money behind this. Here's another garbage science. You know, people say, oh, homosexuals were born that way. Guess what? There's no evidence whatsoever. In fact, the evidence is contrary. Here's another piece of propaganda. I've seen a bumper sticker. Abortion is healthcare. What? Who's cared for? The mother's wounded forever and the baby's dead. Number 4, here's another this way that medicine's been hijacked. We recently found out that Planned Parenthood cuts up baby organs, sometimes when they're alive, and sells these aborted baby organs. We know this because there's already video of Catholic undercover investigators. Another thing, garbage science. medical marijuana is good for you. There's no proof of that. It's been funded by George Soros, and that's why people will say anything. Doctors will say anything when you write them a nice fat paycheck from George Soros and the Democrat Party. Of course they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, I'm Dr. Goofball from UCLA. Sorry, Ruben. And science is, and marijuana is good for you. Here's another garbage science. Cloning human beings in laboratories. That's garbage science.
Yes.
Here's another piece of garbage science. Oh, euthanasia, it's merciful and dignified. Really? Euthanasia turns doctors into killers. Here's another junk science that's been around for decades. Oh, you go to public school. We all came from monkeys and lizards and tadpoles and pollywogs according to evolution. Guess what? That's unscientific. And here's another, again, this or the way the left has hijacked science. Catholic licensed family marriage therapists, they've been blackballed by the mental health organizations, especially in California. Why? Because they're using reparative therapy to try to help homosexuals become normal. Okay? So you get my point, Ruben. Here's my point. Follow the money. The love of money is the root of all evil, as the Bible says in 1 Timothy 6:10. A lot of these medical, there are medical and scientific, I would say, monsters promoting these lies and pure deception. And remember, who's the father of lies? Satan, John 8:44. And remember, who's the master deceiver? Satan, Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. Ruben?
Wow, just tell me how you really feel. Man, you just summed it up. Man, this is.
I got no opinion, right?
No, exactly, man. That's awesome, Jess. Exactly what you're saying. This going to all those points you made. The climate change. We talked about that. That's big dollars that the government is collecting to study this stuff, and who knows what they're doing with that money. The money can go for anything. So, and then the homosexuals born that way. The one doctor that claimed that he found the gene, I guess the gay gene, the homosexual gene. He had an axe to grind because he was homosexual himself, so he was doing what he could to try to
come up with a gay gene.
Yep, and that's been shot down. Abortion, we've had topics on abortion, and that's not healthcare. Absolutely not healthcare, Jess. We see what's going on, and with the CBD, Jess. Using that abortion analogy, like we talked about, you let them get an inch, they're going to take a foot. Oh, we're just going to allow abortion in the first trimester. Now they got abortion all the way up until birth. So you let CBD in, and you start promoting it like it's the soma,
the wonder drug.
Then next thing you know, then other things start popping in. There's no way that it could be regulated because the different strains. There's no the government's not overseeing the production of it, and so you don't know what you're getting. You don't know who to get it from. And by God, I don't want the listeners texting us and emailing us saying, "Hey, where can I get some CBD? Or what do you recommend?" I don't take dope.
I recommend to you Holy Communion. That's what we recommend. That's the soma we recommend on this show. Jesus Christ and Holy Communion.
And some holy water, huh? How's that? And we're going to get emails. We're going to get emails about that, Jess. And I'll tell you, it's even rarer. I take an aspirin. So, I guess if I have one drug, it's caffeine in the morning. But other than that, I stay
nobody's
clean.
Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Ruben, my take on this, if I would synthesize this whole CBD industry, the way it's opened up almost overnight and spread like wildfire, here's my take. This entire medical marijuana and CBD industry has opened up because of two reasons. Number one, because we fear embracing our cross. We do. And there's a term for that in Greek. It's called staurophobia. Staro means cross in Greek. Staurophobia means fear of carrying your cross. We're afraid of getting old. We're afraid of getting sick. We're afraid of pain. Guess what? That's part of life. No pain, no gain. Just ask any athlete, okay? No guts, no glory.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of life. We're going to get old. Our body's going to decompose. We were meant to go to heaven and be with Jesus. Don't be so afraid of getting sick and old and dying. So that's the first thing we have in as Americans. We got starophobia. We're afraid of carrying our cross. And then the second thing that fuels this ungodly industry is the love of money, Ruben. It's the root of all evil. Some of these doctors that we quoted, they're saying, you know what? I'm speaking against a multi-million-dollar industry. But I'm going to say the facts as I see them as a doctor. Follow the money, Ruben. Follow the money.
That's what it's all about. And a lot of people have money tied up in the stock market and in marijuana industries, and it pains me when I hear someone in our profession that has come from, what do you think about investing in marijuana in the industry? I go, you kidding me? After what we stood for 30 years, you're going to go ahead and go to the dark side? No, because you want to line your wallet, and that's not what it's all about. We have to be doing things to build up the kingdom of God, not to tear it down. And
Ruben, and here's another thing about this whole CBD thing. I'll reiterate what we said. Most of the studies have been done on animals. There's only been 24 studies done on humans. 24 humans been studied. Yeah. All the studies have been done on animals.
I'd like to see what those 24 people look like.
Well, here's my take. I'd wrap it up. I'll say this. If you use CBD, is it going to be spiritually profitable to your soul? Is it going to build you up as a Catholic Christian? Is it going to build your relationship with Jesus Christ? Okay? These are questions. Is using CBD, is it going to lead you to live a life of holiness and purity? Or is using CBD, is that going to cause scandal to weaker people in the faith? Is using CBD, do you believe it's Christ-like behavior? Could you see Jesus on the cross saying, "Oh, this hurts, give me a joint"?
Oh yeah, or put some CBD oil on the
CBD oil on it, and let me drink. Yeah, this hurts. Can you see him in the Garden of Gethsemane as he's being arrested and beat? Can I have some CBD oil? This hurts. No. Ask yourself, is this consistent with being Christ-like? And finally ask yourself, hey, is using CBD oil, is this good? Does this glorify God? Do these actions glorify God, that I am running away from my cross that God has given me? Guess what? Every one of us has a cross that God has given us, and God has given everybody a cross that's not 1 inch too long or 1 inch too short. He knows exactly what you need, but God will be there and he'll help you carry it all the way through Judgment Day.
That's right. He may take that cross from you, but then he's going to give you another one, and it could be even heavier. So face the cross that you've been given, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the show. I thought it was a good topic. It needed to be said. And you were listening to Jesus 911. Stay tuned for Hands-On Apologetics with Gary Mishuda from the Spiritual Dojo. And remember, you stay ready. You don't have to get ready. Be Christ-like, ladies and gentlemen.
St. Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.